Hi, I'm Chance Cenarius, and today I'd like to tell you about my parents, specifically about how they've helped me and encouraged me to pursue education throughout the entirety of my life. For as long as I can remember, education has always been a top priority in my family. Whether it was me or my sisters, our parents always helped to push us to pursue to be our absolute best in the academic field. But before I tell you about my parents' commitment to education, I need to tell you a little bit about them. My parents met in April of 1991 and were married just over a couple of years later, in May of 1993. My parents knew even before they were married that they wanted to have kids and raise a family. Soon after the wedding, in January of 1994, my parents had their first child, my oldest sister, Presley.
Was going through my head. I was excited. I was nervous, but really excited. I always wanted to have kids, always wanted to have a family. So it was exciting to think that it was going to happen.
Then along came my other sister, Haley, in 1996, and finally, me, in 2000. But even before my siblings and I were existent, our parents were already concerned about our education.
So one of the first fights we ever got into was when we were doing our premarital counseling, the evenings with the engaged, and
with Big Al.
they would give you topics and then you would discuss how you felt about the topics. And one of the topics was kids, having kids. Did you want to have kids? How many kids? And then another topic was school. Would they go to public school or private school? And I said, oh, our kids are going to go to a private Christian school. And your dad said,
Public school is good for me. It'd be good for my little bambinos.
Eventually, the argument was resolved, but the decision did not come easily.
We left that night. I think we might have not talked for like 2 or 3 days. It was like I wasn't gonna change. He wasn't gonna change. And then he finally came to me and said, maybe we shouldn't fight about kids that we don't have yet. Maybe we'll talk more about it.
But secretly in my mind, I could hear the sound of the garage door closing and my 66 Mustang being pushed into that garage and never being moved again, thanks to the three of you.
But jokes aside, I think the most remarkable thing about my parents' commitment to getting a good education for their kids is their persistence, even when financial circumstances were less than ideal.
Well, I think it was April 11th, 2009. I got a call that my boss could no longer afford my services.
For as long as I could remember, my dad always had two jobs when I was a little kid. But when the recession of 2009 struck, he unfortunately lost both of those jobs.
So I became the new Mr. Mom and took on mom's duties. And honey, what did you have to go do?
Well, in the beginning, he lulled me in that I would only have to work part-time.
My mom went back to work, and she is still working today.
I was not retired. Do not, that word is so not even valid. So 98, so 11 years?
11 years, yeah.
My mom had been a stay-at-home mom for 11 years before she returned back to her office job. Luckily, my dad was only out of work for about a year, but even throughout a financially tough time, my parents kept us at the same school and still devoted money toward our education.
And we figured out we had paid private school tuition at that school for over 20 years between all three of you kids.
Since I'm the youngest, I was the last in my family to graduate high school. When I graduated in June of 2018, it meant that all three of my parents' children had successfully completed high school education. Both my sisters and myself are pursuing degrees at the collegiate level. Both of my parents did attend college, but did not graduate and chose to start a family instead.
I just know how many more doors would have been open for myself and your mother had we pursued higher learning. And, we probably pushed it and strived for it. And I think everybody's got it now. We weren't looking for this for us to applaud and say, look at the kids we've raised. We're doing it for you, because to be able to start somewhere go in at a higher entry level is huge.
My parents now work together for the Franchise State Tax Board of California, and my sisters and I continue to pursue our educations.